right, welcome to the Spelts Family Business Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, with
And I'm Kobe.
Kobe, my son. And today is an interesting day because I had a broken tooth, so I'm a little numb still from the dentist. It feels weird. But it's also Kobe's birthday, and so we brought on a special guest, Kobe's mama, my wife, Melissa. So we're excited for this one. So today our topic is actually, yesterday we were driving to the gym, and Melissa kind of brought up your the day before your birthday, like 23 years ago yesterday, what was going on. And it was just kind of fun to reflect on and think about. And so I thought, you know what, let's have her on the podcast. Since we're recording on your birthday, let's talk about it. So tell us what you were telling me yesterday about what was happening the day before.
Okay. Yeah, the day before, I wish I could find my journal entries because I mean, that's a long time ago, you know? So hopefully I get it right. But
We're getting old.
Yeah. You always think you're going to remember everything, you know?
Yeah.
But it is hard to remember sometimes. But I remember we were living in Las Vegas, and we were in a little apartment, a little one-bedroom apartment, kind of in the hood. Like, I mean, it was a little scary in that area, a little sketchy. But Ryan got a job, and he was going to work selling it was Cutco in Salt Lake, and we had to get out of our apartment. And so we found some guy that was going to take over our lease, and it just all happened like so fast. So we had to be out of our apartment, and I was about ready to have you, and we only had a month left until we had to be in Salt Lake, and and we had to move. So we were moving the day before and just packing up boxes, moving it into a storage unit, and then some to grandma's house. And I was super pregnant, like so big and so uncomfortable. And our due date was like the next day. And grandma would say, oh, nobody ever has it on the due date. Right. Even Dad was thinking that.
Yeah. Well, I was in my finals for school. I was at
Yeah.
UNLV, and I was trying to finish up classes, and they had this presentation I had to give. I was in a public speaking class, and so I was like, it's right on the week of the due date. I don't know when to do it. And there was like a couple of days before that you could do it, or that day. And I was like, nobody ever has their baby on the due date, so I'll just do it on the due date, because you don't know, you're guessing, you know. And
Yeah.
Of course you came right. You started coming right when I was giving my presentation.
Well, we went to grandma's house for to just drop off a load. And I told her, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I keep on having these pains in my belly. And she's like, Melissa, you're in labor. And it wasn't so painful that, I mean, we were super excited. We got in our car and we were like, we're going to be parents. We were so excited just to have you come. And we went out to eat. It was super chill. And then we went to bed that night. And then I started having contractions really hard, about 3 a.m. And we went to the hospital, and they're like, you're not even, like, you're barely even dilated. Like, you need to go home.
They said, your makeup's all done. You're not ready to have this baby.
You need to come back when you're not feeling so pretty. Like, you're not feeling so good. So I was so disappointed. But so we came home. Probably, they had us walk around the hospital for a little bit, and they told us, just go home. Like, you're not having contractions. I mean, you're not dilated or anything. And so we went home.
There were contractions. It just weren't, it wasn't quite far enough along yet.
Right.
But it was close.
We went home, and on our way home, we went and grabbed some breakfast. And then the contractions started coming on harder. But Dad had in his mind, like, I need to go get this. What was it? This presentation done. Like, I have it signed up. I need, like, the baby.
It was kind of a big one too, right? Like
It was my final.
Yeah.
And then we were getting ready to move. Like, it was just like so much stuff. But so he needed to get this done. So he's like, Melissa, I'll call my mom to come and be with you. And I was so ticked. And I think, like, because he was going to leave me, and because of the fear of, like, I think it brought on the contractions even more. Like, it made them
made it worse
and more painful. And so we came home. I kind of laid down, and then Ryan got ready, and he called his mom. Oh, it is still there a little bit inside me. Like,
Still irks her a little
yes,
bit.
just a little bit.
Raw.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So his mom came, but she was super busy. Like, she had kids of her own at home, and then she babysat kids, so she kind of had to juggle everything around. But I think they were just as excited. Their first grandchild was coming, and so Ryan left. By the time Grandma came, I was just a mess. I was
full on contractions and
Yes.
ready to go.
And Grandma saw. I mean, she had 7 babies.
Well, and the crazy thing is, like, from what the doctor said at the hospital, I was like, we got lots of time, you know?
Right.
I was just like, we're fine. And I got to go do this presentation anyway. So,
Yeah.
and this was before really easy communication with your teachers. Like, you kind of had to go there in person. You didn't have their cell phones. You couldn't email them or whatever. So I was like worried about my grade and all that stuff too. And so I go and I show up and I'm like, can I go first? Because my wife's kind of in labor and I don't know how long it's going to be. And she's like, okay, sure, you can go first. And so I actually had a cell phone. It was new. It was kind of like my first cell phone. I'd had it for a minute, but it was in my bag.
It's like one of those bricks where you like,
Oh, yeah.
and then pull the antenna out.
Well, it was a brick, but it was basically the size of an iPhone, but the screen was like this little
Just
tiny
like
thing. It was mostly
yeah.
numbers, and then you had to extend the antenna. If you didn't extend the antenna, you couldn't hear anybody.
That's hilarious.
But it was in my bag. It was on vibrate, and I stand up, and I think it was a 10-minute talk. So you had, because it was public speaking, so I had to give a 10-minute talk, speech, and 1 minute in, zzz, zzz,
You start hearing it vibrate.
zzz, I can hear it. And so I'm like so distracted and I'm like, okay, just keep going. You got to go with your plan. Keep going. I don't know what to do. Zzz, zzz. Now the whole class hears it. They're all looking at it. My professor's looking at my bag. Zzz, zzz. It keeps ringing, keeps buzzing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's happening right now while I'm giving this stupid speech. I could see you like actually being birthed right then and there, but they were going to the hospital. They were trying to just let me know what was happening. And so this is so crazy. So I finished my talk and I'm like, I said my conclusion and then I stood there and everybody claps and I'm like, I gotta go. And I just grabbed my bag. I didn't wait for the feedback or anything. And I just ran out the door and ran to my car and then called on the cell phone. And actually, I don't know if I called because you didn't have a cell phone.
And Grandma didn't have
Grandma
one.
didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
So like they were calling from the home phone and then they were gone and nobody answered when I called and they were already going to the hospital or something. I can't remember.
Yeah. Our grandma called from our house and said, you need to come. She's in labor. I don't know,
Yeah.
this baby could come. And so she helped me get into her van. And
Wasn't she like screaming at people like driving down the highway too? She's like, she's in labor. Move out of the way. Like,
luckily she put a towel down in her seat
car. Yeah.
because my water broke in her car
On the drive.
and there was construction like all along the way.
She was on Eastern.
Yes.
She was
In
driving
Las
down
Vegas.
Eastern in Las
Yes.
Vegas, going towards St. Rose de Lima Hospital. And now it's a massive road, but back then it was still in construction of being a massive road,
So Grandma was honking at everybody. She's in labor. She had
She's
her
yelling out
window
the
rolled
window.
down. Let her pass, let us pass. We got to get to the hospital. And she was freaking out because I was like,
Because
not
the water
doing
broke,
good.
like that's fast.
My water
Yeah.
broke.
It comes
I'm with my
usually.
mother-in-law.
Yeah.
In her car, my water broke.
Your husband's not with
My
you.
husband's out with me, so I'm ticked. And those contractions were coming on strong, and oh man, so many things. But we got there, and they're like, "You're not even 2 or 3. Like you have to be at a 10, like when you're having a baby. So
Yeah.
we'll admit you just because, but you could have waited a little bit longer. But my
That's
water
funny.
broke. All these signs
Yeah.
were saying go to the hospital. So
Right. I feel like it's just different for everybody too. Like
Right.
some people are quick, some people
And first babies are different than,
Yeah.
the other kids weren't that same way. But
Yeah.
for sure.
And you kind of know what to expect too when you're on your second one. But on your first one, you're like,
What's going on?
This
Oh
is
my
crazy.
goodness.
So they admitted me, and then we were waiting for the doctor to come or the anesthesiologist. Is that what I'm going to say?
Anesthesiologist.
It's
Yeah.
kind of a tricky one.
It really is.
Tongue twister.
It's even worse though what your brother does.
Yeah, my brother.
A nurse anesthetist.
Yeah.
nurse anesthetician.
Anesthetist.
Anesthetist. I don't know.
Yeah.
Esthetician is a skin person.
Yep.
That's what Nikel's studying.
Yep. I call her a master electrician just because it's easier to say.
I don't think he had come yet. Were you there when he gave me the
No.
epidural?
No, I would have freaked out because I didn't find out till later that they put a giant needle up inside your spine.
Yeah.
So I was not there, but I showed up right after. So
Okay.
it hadn't kicked in yet. And you were having contractions, and I had my wedding ring on, and you were smashing the crap out of my hand over my ring. And I'm like,
Pinching your
I
finger.
don't want to say anything because I know this sounds like really wimpy when you're about to squeeze a baby through your you know what, and but that really hurts. And she would do it, and then finally the medicine kicked in, and you quit squeezing so hard. And I was like, oh my god,
You're like, oh.
if I could have taken that off before we started the hand holding, that would have been
Yes.
good. But it was
That's your advice to any new father. Like,
Take your wedding ring
take your
off.
wedding ring off.
That's awesome.
But Dad was so. The funniest part, I think, is Dad came in and he was just feeling really bad, because he left me, and I was really mad at him. So, but
I was in hot water.
But he came in and he came up really close to my face, and he was like, "Everything's gonna be okay." And he was like talking to me, and I was like, I couldn't breathe because he was like in my space,
Yeah.
and I'm like trying to breathe, and like I told him, like, what did I tell you?
Stop breathing on me.
But
I was just trying to talk to her and soothe her, and I was just close, and I did feel bad. And then she's like, "Stop breathing on me."
Well, and when
It's
you're
like,
pregnant,
oh.
like smells are weird, right?
Yeah.
And they're kind of intensified a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe you didn't brush your teeth very good that
Maybe
morning or
not.
something.
or maybe it's
She's-
just afternoon, and yeah, but
eat something funny for lunch.
maybe.
Well, I don't even know that I knew where to go, but I think when you got to the hospital, my mom called me again from a payphone and was like, "We're at the hospital. Her water broke. You better hustle." So I drove like a maniac to get there because I was at UNLV, which is probably a half an hour drive to. I'm like, I'm going to miss it. I was so pissed the whole time. I was just like frustrated, and there wasn't instant communication like you have now,
Yeah.
So you're just wondering, you're just driving like, oh man, what is going on? I have no idea. And then, but I got there and then the epidural kicked in and it kicked her out of labor.
Oh, really?
It
And
happens.
so-
yeah.
I climbed up in the hospital bed with her and we fell asleep. Like her contractions weren't so bad to keep her even awake. And we were, we had a rough night the night before because we had spent the night going to and from the hospital, and we lived by UNLV, so we were kind of a ways away from the hospital too. That hospital's closer to where Grandma and Grandpa used to live. But yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then it kicks back in that afternoon. What time? Do you remember what time he was born?
I think it was like 3 or 4. I can't remember. But
That's what it says on Snapchat. For some reason, Snapchat
really?
knows the time you're born.
Oh, that's
really
scary.
weird. If you go into the settings on Snapchat and like your profile, it'll tell you like your astrological sign or whatever, and it says like 3:00 on night. And I was like, how the fetch does Snapchat?
that is,
Kinda
I don't
cool.
like that too much.
kind of weird.
That's
But
creepy.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so Dad's youngest sister was 11. Was it 11 or 12?
I think
So she was
11.
in junior high. So everybody, I think they left school early. Like,
Really?
I think
were
everybody
just
was
all
so
pumped.
excited. Yeah. So she was there, but I think it was shortly after, like, they came. But yeah, like 3:00.
Yeah.
Yeah. You came out, and then, one funny thing too. We were like, "Grandma, will you come and film? Like, don't get down there. Like, we don't want this to be like R-rated. We wanted just the, just the special
And we
moments.
had this
Keep it clean."
old video recorder. I can't even think of what were they called? Camcorder.
Camcorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had this old camcorder that we gave her to use that was like really cool and high tech at the time, and
Yeah.
it was this massive, like big old brick thing. But yeah, she did not. She was so distracted by the whole thing. She just like held the camera up. The whole thing is R rated.
Yeah.
I've never seen it because
That's awesome. She was worried about other things.
Yeah.
We might find it fascinating now, but at first I was
Yeah.
like, nobody can even watch this. I don't want to watch this. This is disgusting, but probably it would be actually interesting. But yeah,
That's funny.
so
I've always been, well, for one, I've always been excited about being a dad. Like I always wanted it. I was super excited. This obviously the first one, and like, and being a, my first son, like all of that was just so exciting. And like to me, the miracle of the birth moment is just magical. It's not disgusting or gross or anything. And I know not everybody has that same thing, but for me, it's just magical. It's just so incredible. And like, this is an interesting thing too. Some men have a hard time when their wives get pregnant. They gain weight, their body changes. I freaking loved it. I loved when Mom was pregnant. I was just always, that's probably why we had 5 kids. But I just loved it. I just was so excited to be taking part in this with Mom and like being able to have a child and bringing it into this world. I don't know. It just was really cool. It was so exciting and so much anticipation. And with you, it's funny because I was so excited about being a dad. I did everything way too early. You're like 1 year old. I'm like, well, here's a football and a baseball and bats and all that stuff. And you were fast, thinking about you growing up. You walked at 9 months. You were just very developmentally quick. And it's all in months. So it's not that crazy difference, but it was faster than normal. There's not many kids who walk at 9 months. Most of them, it takes longer. And then when Cameron came around, she was more normal, but I'm like, what is wrong with her? Like, she can't even walk 'cause she's already 10 months old. It's so funny. And her head, you come out of the hospital or out of Mom, you're in the hospital, laying in the bed, and all of a sudden you pick up your head. You're like laying on your back. You pick up your head and you look around the room at all the nurses. And I'm like, and the nurses look at me and they're like, that's not normal. Little brand new newborn baby and her neck was so strong already.
That's funny.
So when Cameron came, we pick her up and she's like, wah, wah, wah. And we're like, what's wrong with her? Why is she so wiggly? They're like, that's normal. We didn't know. Our first frame of reference was you being like weird with your neck and then, being able to look around the room. And they were all like, that was weird. The nurses, nobody was like, we all thought it was strange. But yeah, I remember a couple things about you growing up. First of all, you were very fast at doing things developmentally, like fast to walk, fast to run. We got you this wiffle ball bat, and at a very young age, I could toss the ball to you, and you could hit like 90% of them. I'm like, he's going to be a professional baseball player. Because you just had this like instinct and coordination that you could do it, and somehow, and I remember Lance Lambert, one of my good friends, and a baseball player, really good one, all through high school, and just very talented and very athletic, so good at every sport. It kind of drove me nuts because we were good friends and he was better than me at everything. But he came to visit one time, and I don't know how old he was. Do you think he was 3?
I think Cameron was born, yeah.
So you were like 3 years old, and he had a son the same age, and he was more average, normal, and he's actually a great athlete now.
Yeah.
But at 3, he was just a normal 3-year-old kid, and Lance starts pitching the ball to you, and you're hitting dingers with this wiffle ball set, and he's like, let's go outside. So he goes outside, and he's pitching them to you, and you just keep cranking on him, and he's like, what in the world? How does he do this? And I'm sure he's looking at his kid being like, what the heck, man? And Graydon ended up being a good athlete, and baseball player and all that stuff. But it has no bearing on anything. It's just when you're a new parent, everything's so new and exciting and fun. But you were also crazy. You would jump off things. You had this, and you still have this like love of making your tummy, what would make most people's tummy turn and like kind of freak them out a little bit. You just crave and go after, that little bit of thrill seeking.
Yeah, I've become a lot more cautious for sure, but I definitely
Really?
still don't have that. I just don't I don't know. I just don't have fear like heights or jumping off things. Like I'd want to do it. It's weird. I don't know.
I was reading in your journal this morning, and in my journal that I wrote about you, and you were learning how to ride a bike, and Dad was helping you, and you fell a ton, like crashed and burned, but you just kept on trying. And there was this one point where you realized Dad wasn't holding you anymore, and you were doing it. You were riding your bike, and you started to giggle. Like you were so excited.
I still do that. I
yeah.
still giggle.
You
Yeah.
do. Like scary rides, you're giggling and everybody else is screaming. Yeah.
Yep. That's funny. It's interesting because I actually, when you were talking about, I have like very faint memories of that,
Really?
just that moment when you like let go, and I didn't realize for a second.
And you kind of looked back,
And I
was
looked back,
standing
and
back
you were
further.
standing back there, and I was like, I'm doing it. Like, kind of funny.
It's a pretty monumental accomplishment in life
Yeah.
when you first learn to ride a bike. It's so exciting.
Well, and then I was just in love with bikes after
you rode
that.
them constantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still do.
In fact, you had a couple of pretty major injuries on bikes.
Mhm.
One of them, you fell when you were pretty young, and just you still have a scar on the
Yeah.
bottom side of your chin. You
Yeah,
fell.
my beard doesn't grow right here.
Yeah. And then another one, you broke your front teeth out. Your chain broke as you were going up a half pipe, and
Yeah, I was at a skate park and I was pedaling up to. I liked BMX and I wanted to get good at it, and so, but I also was like nervous. I didn't like going to the skate park with all the other guys, so I would go at like 6 a.m, like barely even bright out.
nothing could get Kobe out of bed. He slept like
Unless
the dead,
fun.
unless it was something fun.
Yeah,
And then we were still asleep. We didn't even know he was gone.
yeah. So I rode my bike to the skate park early in the morning. Nobody's there. It's just the way I like it, because if I crash, if I biff, nobody's gonna like laugh or see it, so you don't get any of that embarrassment. But yeah, I was riding up to the ramp, and then my chain snapped and it locked my back wheel. And so right before the ramp, my bike stopped, but obviously I kept going.
Yeah.
I just went face first right into the ramp. And there's a picture. I might be able to find it. I'll put it up on the screen. But it's me, and my face is just covered in blood.
Yeah.
And luckily I had braces on. So it actually saved. These are my real front teeth. Like,
Yeah.
it saved my
Kept them
teeth
in place.
because they were out, like they were wiggling and stuff. But then we went straight to the dentist, and he just shoved them right back in,
Yep.
and the braces held them together. And they're like, well, your teeth might die, you'll know, because it'll turn black. But then they were fine. So
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
yeah.
Well, and we were awake, but laying in bed, and you called us, and you were like, I'm at the skate park. And I'm like, you are? And then
Yeah.
I broke my front teeth out. I'm bleeding. I'm like, what? And so we jump up and get dressed and run over there and grab you. And anyway, kind of crazy. You've definitely been a daredevil kid, but you're also like the friendliest kid, the most like social kid we ever, of any of our kids.
Yeah.
Still to this day, you're that way. Love people, love family, love getting together with people. We'd go to church and we'd sit there on the pew, and you would stand up at this is like 1. You're already walking, right? So you're 1 year old. You stand up on the bench, and you'd look around, and you'd find someone, and you'd stare at them until they would look at you, and then you'd put this big grin on your face and get them to smile, and you'd move on to the next one. And then you'd look at them until they would smile or look at you, and you'd smile big, and they would smile, and then you'd go to the next one. You'd just be looking around. It's like so funny. And you would do it every week. It was like this consistent thing. And we had Cameron, who was more of she got colicky, you were a really easy baby. You didn't really get sick or have any problems like that. Cameron, for some reason, just had upset stomach a lot as a baby and in pain. And so she tended to cry a lot. And it's just such a different experience, with, cause she's very easygoing now and fun, but just back then it was just more difficult to have, she was just, we'd go to church and we'd be standing in the back trying to get her to stop crying, and just a totally different experience. But
My favorite thing is we go to a park and like McDonald's, the little playground, or we go to any park and all the kids knew you. Like you could barely even talk.
Kobe, they'd be yelling your name.
Didn't one kid say, why can't he talk? But he knew your name, and he was playing with you. He's like, why can't he talk?
That's so funny. It's probably like 2 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'd go to parks too, and you'd walk out on the park and you'd be like, can I play with you guys? My name's Kobe. And then they would know your name. You start playing tag or something, and they'd be like, Kobe, Kobe. Everybody be talking about Kobe. And we're like, what? Like, we didn't introduce you, and it was just random. You always did it. Always
funny.
in some game, you're always organizing some crazy thing. Our
Yeah.
other kids are not like that still.
Can
Can you imagine Gray trying to do that? He would never do that.
I sometimes think he does have that. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think because of you, I'm like,
Yeah.
great, why aren't you like out there making friends, But it's, it's harder. One of my favorite stories, I want you to tell it, but is when you were at Grandma's house and you believed you could fly. Could you tell that story?
This probably will explain a lot of things if you've ever wondered about my, mental well-being. But yeah, Grandma ran a daycare out of her house, and so she had a bunch of kids there all the time. And I would just go and hang out, But I can't remember who it was. I just remember we were out in the backyard playing a game or something. Do you remember how old I was?
I think I like time is
3 or
based
4.
on my
3 or 4.
pregnancies. Yeah, I think you were 4.
4.
Yeah, I think we were pregnant with Ellie.
Because I do remember this, probably just because it was a little traumatizing.
Yeah.
I did it to myself, for the record, but
Yeah.
I just remember telling some kid that I could fly. I was like, I can fly. I was like, I know I can. Like, I totally believed it, 100%. Like, nobody was going to tell me I was wrong. And this kid was like, no way, you can't fly, dude. I was like, I'm Superman. I definitely can fly, and I'll prove it to you. So to prove it to him, Grandma in her backyard had this big old, 6-foot tall cinder block wall, and there's like bushes on the sides, and there's a hedge on the other side. And I was like, I'll prove it to you. I'm gonna run and jump and fly over this cinder brick wall. And I totally believed it, 100%. So I was like, I'm gonna do it. So I, back up, get a nice little head start, and start running, and get right up next to the wall, and I jump as hard as I can, and I fly face first right into the bricks, like right into the cinder wall, right on my forehead too. So it really just and I fall down instantly, start wailing, and that's the day I found out I wasn't Superman. So
Yeah. It's an unfortunate experience. Isn't
yeah.
it?
Well, I was in the house visiting with Grandma, and you came in crying. I'm like, what happened? And you're like, I was trying to fly over the wall.
Oh, that other kid was right. He probably felt good about that. But
I did the same thing, but at least I put a helmet on.
you put a football helmet on.
But I thought I could run into the wall at full force because I had this helmet on. It was going to protect me.
I was going to protect you.
Similar wall, but it was the older house when I was young too. But
That's funny. That's just one of many head traumas I've caused myself over the years.
how many
but-
concussions have you had?
I mean, that we know of for sure, like 4 or 5. But it's probably more than that. And then if you count like micro concussions, then 30, 40 probably. I don't know. I've just always been crazy. Mountain biking, skateboarding, BMX, snowboarding. Like, I don't know. Just always getting hurt. But
Never afraid to jump or fly over something or whatever.
it was weird too because it just like never stopped me too. Like I feel like a lot of kids
They would get fear.
they'd get hurt and then they wouldn't want to do it anymore. I'd be like, what the heck? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I crash all the time. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I just had this weird, I just didn't quite understand because I just never had that part of my brain.
I noticed that in kids and people who are, drawn to skating and different things, jumping and those kinds of things, is that number one, they learn how to fall better. They're not as, they're willing to put up with a little bit of pain to learn a trick or to do a stunt. And they typically learn to fall a little better, but it doesn't change their desire to do that. It's kind of interesting. Like you watch those guys on some of the shows where they do crazy tricks. I'm thinking of Fotheringham. I'm trying to think of his name.
Aaron Fotheringham.
Aaron, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We knew his dad really well in Las Vegas, and he falls.
Wheels. If anybody
Wheels.
doesn't know Aaron Fotheringham, he's Wheels. He's in he's a paraplegic, but he's in a wheelchair, but he's with Nitro Circus, so he does like quadruple backflips off of these mega jumps.
Incredible.
On a wheelchair. Like has custom wheelchairs made for doing tricks. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, they kind of had to make them specifically for him because he kept breaking wheelchairs doing his stunts. But even his craziest crashes, he's still down to go again. Like he just does. He falls pretty well, but sometimes you can't fall well. Like it's crazy, and you were that way too. I mean, not maybe quite as crazy doing quadruple backflips, but
double backflips and
yeah. I mean, one of your concussions, you did something on the trampoline. You'd go out and practice your flips and double flips and all of those things, and you whacked your head on the bar of the trampoline.
I was trying to do a double backflip with a 360, and I can do a full, which is a backflip with a 360, like pretty easy.
Yeah.
I almost got to the point where I could do it on the ground, and I can still do a backflip on the ground.
Yeah.
But I did it, and I landed on my toes, and it like shot me. Or no, I landed on my heels, and it shot me
Shot you
backward,
back.
and I smacked the back of my head on the bar, and that's all I remember. Like, you know, that small section, and then I just remember you carrying me into the house, and then we sat on I had to sit in the recliner, and you guys were like trying to keep me awake
Yeah.
because it's super dangerous to go to sleep if you have a severe concussion.
Yeah.
And I just remember having to stay up like super late into the night because you guys were worried that if I, you know, went to sleep, it wouldn't be good. So
That wasn't our only sleepless night because of you. So.
yeah, I'm sure there were plenty.
So, Miss, tell us a little more about when we decided to go into business together, what it was like from your standpoint.
When you guys decided to,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Okay, I am kind of a more on the safety side. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like a huge risk taker.
You'd have
So-
loved it if I just had a job.
When I married you, you were going to be a school teacher. I was totally cool with that. So I was like, okay, we'll just have to be careful with our money because
Yeah.
you're not going to make a ton. So when you guys went into business, I think at that point, because we had already jumped so many times, you and I was like, okay, whatever, you know, like, but I loved that you guys were going to be working together. I loved that you were going to be learning from Dad because Dad has such an amazing knowledge of business and marketing, and he's just studied it for so long. So I was really excited for that. But I don't know. I think it's cool. You guys were having fun dreaming and working together and gathering all this stuff that you needed for Roof Max and, you know, which is awesome. So I think this is going to be a time in your life where you're going to look back and just with fond memories, hopefully, you know. But yeah, I like how you guys structured it where you guys are partners. I like how he doesn't put money first. So he's like, we're never going to like part ways over money, you know. I love that because I've seen a lot of people part ways over money, you know, and their family. So I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think you guys have had a lot of fun. So I think you're learning a lot together. But
Yeah, cool. Any other distinct memories that you guys have?
Kobe was the only boy for a long time. So he has 3 sisters. We thought number 5 was going to be a girl for sure. I remember when we had the ultrasound and we found out we were having a boy. Kobe yelled in the. What did you do?
Well, every year, like before you go and get the ultrasound, you'd say, "Okay, everybody," you'd take like a little video of us, and you'd be like, "What do you think it is? You think it's a boy or a girl?" And I think for Cameron and Ellie, I think for Cameron, Ellie, and Lucy, I was like, it's going to be a boy. I wanted a brother so bad.
Yeah.
I was like, it's going to be a boy. Like, I know it this time. And then when it was finally Gray's turn, I was like, I want it to be a brother, but it's probably going to be another girl. And then I barely remember this, but I just remember they said, it's a boy. And I just like jumped out of my seat and I was like, yeah! I like just started cheering. I was so pumped. But
We were in the Provo Mall.
Yeah, we were
So-
in a mall. Kind of funny
It was kind of
because
loud.
it wasn't a normal doctor's office. We didn't have insurance, and so, but they had this ultrasound place where you could go do it retail,
Yeah.
and we're like, let's go do it. And so it was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was super cute. So I'm glad you have your brother. But like, I think it was kind of like how Dad was when you came out. He's like, here's a football. And you're like,
Yeah.
1. Like, I think you were expecting like, okay, I'll have this brother to do all this stuff
right,
with.
to wrestle with.
Yes.
and he
It
was
took a while.
Baby for a long time.
Yeah.
But you were actually closer to my youngest sister in age than you are to
Yeah.
him, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. But it was,
But he's fun now. Like,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
get to do stuff with him all the time. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's growing up. It's kind of weird. His voice is like changing,
Yeah.
getting deeper
Yeah.
and stuff.
he had a voice crack the other day.
He did. We're
During
giving him
dinner,
so much
yeah.
crap. So funny.
I don't know. I just remember Kobe being just the sweetest kid. Like, he was always watching out for his mama. If I was sick or anything, he was like right there. When I was pregnant, I would always be sick the first trimester, and I'd be in the bathroom like losing my lunch, and he would come in and like hold my hair and like, it's okay, Mom. And then he'd say, that is really gross. Or my favorite, when I was pregnant with Cameron, and like right at that last trimester, your hips go out and your butt gets big. Like, you just look bigger. And you would tell me all the time, Mom, your butt is really big. Nobody wants to hear that. So I would say, Ryan, he keeps on telling me my butt's big. And he's like, well, it kind of is.
That's awesome.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's part of the gig.
Just the sweetest kid. Always has been. Like, you just have the kindest heart. Always helping neighbors and always helping your sisters and your brother. And the best part was in junior high when you had this cute little baby brother and you'd walk out holding your baby brother and all these girls would surround you.
I loved it. I loved it. All the girls would come running over. Hi, Gray. Like, just wanted to meet him. I'm like, yes. It's funny because, like, it's been a while, but, like, I remember in high school, like, people would ask me about Gray and stuff. And they were like, how's Gray doing? Like,
That's
they just
cute.
remembered him as a baby, but kind of funny.
Yeah.
Used him to get the ladies.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gray had to use blue for that.
Yeah.
He was a little younger, but well, cool. I don't. That's probably pretty good. How long have we been going?
I don't know.
38 minutes.
Yeah.
So
I just
Some
want
fun
Kobe
stories.
to know that we love him so much. Seriously, like, the best kid. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like I'm gonna cry, but I'm trying not to. But just we just love having you in our family. And he hates birthdays, so I'm trying not to like make it a big deal. But
It's okay. I know it's gonna happen regardless. Nicole loves birthdays, and so it's I just put up with it. But it's like I don't know why I just never
I'm
liked
the
it.
same way.
I think part of it's the attention. Like in BNI this morning, it was actually really funny. Steve put this thing on our like sheet that like shows how
I
many
saw it.
referrals have been given and stuff. And he's like, sweet 23rd birthday or something. Kobe
Never
needs his
been
first
kissed.
kiss or something.
Never been kissed,
He's
yeah.
like, he likes the beard too. If you got a little prickly, he prefers that. It's like, I was just dying, but they made me stand up, passed out donuts, and sang to me. And I just always hated that. I don't know why, but I don't know. Which is
Well-
funny because it's not that I hate being the center of attention. It just depends on what it is.
Yeah.
And I just thought birthdays were kind of a silly thing to celebrate always.
It's probably my fault because I've always hated him.
I
I have
know
a
why.
moving 6-month birthday, meaning it's always just happened. So if you ask me when my birthday is, I'm like, oh, you just missed it.
You just missed
It was
it.
like in February.
That's awesome.
I love your BNI group.
They're
Honestly,
awesome.
my mama heart just wants
Yeah.
to go around and give them all hugs because they just take such good care of you and they're always so kind to you. So
You're the youngest
you,
by
Steve.
far,
Not by far. No, there's a couple that are close.
Heather.
Yeah. Yep. Emily's the closest. I think she's really I think we're like maybe a year or two apart. But just me and her. I think the closest after that is probably like I don't know 8-10 years.
Yeah.
So Emily's cool too.
What does she do?
She does floor coverings, so pretty much anything. She'll do like self-leveling concrete. They do garages. They do carpet. Like she was passing out. Actually, Emily, if you're listening, I need a rug. You passed that book out today, and Jackie held onto it the whole meeting, and I wanted to look through it. My bedroom's tile, and so like recording anything in my room is so echoey. So Emily, I need a rug. But yeah, she's awesome. They do great work. So
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch you be a man, be in business. And right before this podcast, I handed you a tax thing. We didn't file something with withholdings with the state. And I'm like, here you go. We got to call them, take care of this. It's pretty cool. When we first started, you were like, what do I do? And
yeah. Well, I still feel like that now, but I just kind of try to figure it out.
just like the rest of us.
Yeah, I don't feel like a man, but it's funny. They were talking about my baby face when I first joined. I was 19.
Yeah.
I'm 19 turning 20, and I've got like a beard and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. They just that group has been awesome for me though. It just I don't know, just kind of help guide me, give me some good.
Helps you learn how to interact with people and interact with business people who, varying levels of success, but they're good folks and they're out working hard and running their own business. You get to interact with those kinds of people. It teaches you a lot. You see how they present themselves and how they talk about their businesses and how they interact with other businesses and refer to them and help, generate good relationships long term. And that's what networking is. It's never the fast solution, but it always generates that ability to know a lot of people and be friends with them. So
It's kind of funny because like I'll be working, doing a bid or whatever, and people will ask about, or they'll just mention some other home project. I'm like, oh, I've got a guy for that. Oh, I've got a guy for this. And then I just started telling people, like, just so you know, like if you have any home projects, I'm really young, but I actually have a pretty decent sized network. Like I just have a bunch of business owners that I work really closely with. So if you need any numbers for anything, like I can give you 5 or 6 cards right now. And some people love it, some people don't care, but
Yeah.
but it's kind of fun. Like sometimes I'll leave an appointment not even selling the roof max because they didn't qualify or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll give them like 5 or 6 different phone numbers for other contractors to call. And that's just nice because I know it's trusted, right? I'm not like just looking it up online, like who's the first plumber? I know it's going to be James Wright. You know, like I just, it's really handy and people love it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
That's cool. Well, thanks for tuning in for the Spelts Family Business Podcast. We added the Spelts thing to our name.
Yeah.
It made the name ridiculously long.
So I think we're taking podcast out. So I think it's just going to be the Spelts Family Business. I'm still working on like the intros and stuff. I've got to update all of it, but we'll get it all fixed.
The reason we did it is just because there was like 6 other family business podcasts that,
and only one of them is active still, like continually posting stuff, but their name pops up before us, and so I think. But
they put their name in there.
They put their
with
name.
the Alessis, or however they say it, but the family business with the Alessis, and then anyway, I think this will be good because Spelts is one thing we have that's
very unique.
Yeah, not
very
repeated
defining.
very often in the world. There's not very many of us, so. So it'll help it stand out, and a lot of what we do is business, but a lot of what we talk about also is family, like today where we talked about family. So it's an emphasis on both those pieces and being in business together as a family. So, but we appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe, share it if you would. My BNI group recently has been sharing the podcast with each other. Like, you got to listen to this one; it's awesome, and they were talking about learning great things from us and talking about the commercial one we just did that we just released on the Super Bowl commercials. And Doug from Rawhide Pest Control was like, the reason all those commercials have celebrities in them is because of us. You know, we like that. That's our age group. He's probably my age.
Yeah,
and so
that's funny.
It's probably true, you know, that influencer of the old generation is the movie star. But
I'm just glad people are even listening. People even care. Like when we first started doing this, I was like, man, like we're annoying. Like, you know, I've grown up with you, like we've known each other my whole life, you know, and so I was just like listening to and I'm also editing. So I'm scrubbing through the same 5 seconds, like 6 or 7 times just to make sure it flows right. Or I'm taking out the ums or the coughs. And I'm like, gosh, we are annoying. Like, I can't believe people will listen to us for more than 10 seconds. Like, but people enjoy it. So I'm just glad.
I figured my mom and maybe my sisters every once in a while would listen, and you know, Mom for sure would listen.
Yeah, I love them.
I actually like it though. I watch them every time when they're done. Like, I was there obviously, but I like listening to them and I like going through it. It's kind of fun.
I can't, dude.
Fun.
I can't because
Can't
once
listen
I can listen to them
listened to it a
in
lot.
hindsight, but you know, like after a couple weeks, but I got to give it a break because I listened to the whole thing like 3 times over and I'm like, ugh. I sound like an idiot or I'm being annoying or whatever. But
that's how I am with my videos. And then one of my videos on my podcast will pop off or something, and then I'm like, why is that one? I'll go watch it, and I'm like, oh, I did say some good things there. That's pretty cool, you know. But I don't like listening to them right after I've done them because I'm like, ugh, I don't like my voice. I don't like how many times I said I don't like how lost I seemed, you know. But they sound better after you edit them. So.
Kind of funny.
Yep. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.